Hey, what's up, everybody? We're off the air for a few weeks. We're changing location of the kitchen door, but I am taking Chit Chat Chop on the road. We're at my old stomping grounds, Chives Canadian Bistro, and I'm going to be cooking up with Chef Craig today. So come on in, we're going to have some fun. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Chit Chat Chop. We are on the road. This is Chit Chat Chop to go. I'm your host, Chef Andrew. I am here with my good friend and Chef Craig Flinn right here.
What about Chef and Mentor?
Chef and Mentor. There's so many things I could have said. I went through this in the car on the way down. Like, do I go executive chef and proprietor of Two Doors Down Bar and Bites, or in Chives? I mean,
and all around, just great guy.
All around great guy.
Yeah.
All around great guy.
I like what you settled on. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Well, thank you for letting us come here and film this. Thanks for coming on. This amazing spread is courtesy of Craig and his knowledge of telegenic presence. So we appreciate that. We are going to make a beautiful home-style dish so you guys can make it home if you want. Follow along. We are actually doing this Tuesday afternoon, but we will be live underneath in the comments. So if you're watching us right now, you're going to be having a glass of wine when you watch this. We're going to be in two places at once. So follow along. If you have any recipe questions, we will actually be able to respond to you live. So it's a feature, not a bug, just like the iPod Shuffle. I had to get an Apple thing in there somewhere.
You have to, all the time.
Yeah, exactly. So what are we making today, Craig?
Well, we were talking about different options, and obviously there's a ton of different things that we can do in winter. Sort of warming dishes, satisfying dishes. I thought this was a good one for many reasons. We're going to do a classic bolognese with gnocchi. So gnocchi alla bolognese.
Awesome.
Potato gnocchi, handmade. It was sort of one of the things that we've always done here at the restaurant. We dabble in all kinds of Italian food, and we actually have an Italian winter menu right now that we launched about 2.5 weeks ago. We're running all through February into March, all through Dine Around Nova Scotia, and through Valentine's Day as well. So I love Italian cooking, travel in Italy as much as I possibly can. And it's also very approachable because, with the exception of in the middle of summer, there aren't a ton of local produce that's available this time of year.
And it's one of these cuisines you can actually get fantastic canned products.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we've got these beautiful San Marzanos, you've got this passata there.
Yeah.
It's one of those cuisines you go to the Italian market and make a great meal just from the pantry alone.
Absolutely, and onions, carrots, garlic, potatoes, and ground meat, i.e. pork and beef is what we're going to use today.
Yeah.
These are all things that most people have in their larder, and it's really inexpensive. So I really wanted to do something like that was going to be relatively easy to do. Lots of variations on this. There's no real one way to do it.
Right.
But I would say that a classic bolognese, and that's probably where we're going to start, actually. I've got the potatoes cooked for the gnocchi, so I think it's most important if we sort of get cracking on the sauce, so we can have that done. Perfect. And we'll make the gnocchi. So what I would like you to do, since it's called Chit Chat Chop.
He gets it, folks. He gets it. We're chatting, and I'm going to chop.
So one large onion, or 2 small onions, is kind of the right amount. We're going to start off with a mix.
Sorry, Chef. Would you like that fine dice, medium dice? You want that grated?
Fine. You know what? You can try. I have a hard time grating an onion. We're going to grate the carrot.
I have an easy time grating fingernails, but that's for
a different day. We don't want that in our food.
No.
But I have a beautiful sharp knife. That was sharpened like a week ago. It's never been used. That should be.
I brought my guy, and Craig wants me to cut myself on camera, so I'm going to try not to.
Yeah, please do.
This,
fine dice.
Cool.
I'll take care of the carrot, grating the carrot. I've got about 5 cloves of garlic that I've already really finely minced into a pulp there. And then a pound of pork and a pound of beef. Now you can use anything you have. Most of the recipes actually that you'll see always tend to be based on about 1 kilogram, i.e. 2 pounds.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of meatball recipes that's like equal parts beef, veal, and pork.
Right. And the reason I did this size of recipe is because it uses 1 can of marzana, 1 jar of passata, really an average-sized beef and pork in the grocery store, 1 carrot, 1 onion. So very easy to sort of have those things on hand and not a lot of leftovers.
Totally.
Around, right?
All right,
so,
let's get cooking.
Okay, so you start that. I'm going to put some olive oil in this pot, and I'll start browning the meat. Now, many classic recipes actually say to sweat off the mirepoix first, and I will say that I typically do that myself as well.
Right.
But for the sake of time and our ability to sear this beef, we're going to try to speed this up a little bit and sear the meat first and add the mirepoix to that.
So there's like a quick version and a short version of this sauce. So
That's
this is, you got to get dinner on the table in half an hour. This is your recipe right here.
Yeah, it really is. And this is when you're dealing with a bolognese, the best bolognese, the bolognese that I would serve in this restaurant, which we currently have on the menu, is I love to braise it slowly.
Right.
So you're always looking for very, very fine meat. You don't want lumps. So working the meat really, really well is key to a good bolognese sauce.
Yep.
But I also love the part of the sauce after you get everything incorporated. I throw it into a low oven, 300 degrees, sometimes even 275.
That's a good idea. So then you don't get the tomato splashes all over the back of your oven.
Yeah, and you cook it uncovered, so it evaporates off some of the water and liquid. But it fortifies the flavor. It gets the meat really, really tender. Yeah. And it just melds the flavors really, really well.
It's like one of those things that, like stews and soups and all that, they always taste better the day after.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
This is almost a day after principle.
But this is not necessary. And what we're going to do here is a shortened version. This is more of a one-pan sauce start to finish, and this will be just fine. Now, the key, in my humble opinion, when you're making a good meat sauce like this, is to really make sure that when you're cooking the meat, you boil off the water. Right. Get rid of that water, so all you're left with is the natural fat and that olive oil is left. And then the meat will start to caramelize, and the sound will be different. And you'll hear this high-pitched crackle. And
well, it's almost like bacon. It gets to that point because you've got the fat rendered out of the meat, you've got the water rendered out, so you've just got meat, beautiful meat protein left over.
You're not looking for this meat to be just brown. You want to get to the point where it's darker brown and it doesn't look wet anymore. And there's something else that you can't really tell through television right here. But there's a smell that I'm looking for as well. Right now, this meat smells, honestly, it's not very appealing.
It smells kind of raw.
It's raw, it smells like boiled, you can smell a little bit of blood. I'm not trying to be gross, but the fact of the matter is that there's a process. And what I want to smell is the smell of that incredible grilled burger that you get in the summer. You know, the caramelized meat that you literally go, oh. Yeah. And you have to cook it past the stage, which I feel a lot of people don't cook it as far enough. Yeah. You got to keep it on there and be patient and work it. And you've got to work it by mashing it and getting it fine crumb and try to evaporate that water off.
And this is where that putting it in the oven for an hour, hour and a half really comes into play, because you basically take all the water out of the meat and it sort of tenses up a little bit. Then you put it back in the oven, and it'll reabsorb some of the sauce to where the water was, so all those meat fibers can kind of relax, they chill out. It's just like a little meat sauce jacuzzi.
It's the concentration of flavors that we're looking for. Yeah. Now I'm using a kind of a temperamental, which you know well because you've done a lot of prep jobs on this.
He brought this induction burner on, and I was like, "How you doing, old friend?"
Yeah.
It's got one of these knobs. People are probably familiar with these things where a knob's supposed to go around 360 degrees, but it's only 5 degrees of that 360 that actually work.
That's right.
So getting the temperature up is it's an exercise in patience.
I'm going to season quite well with black pepper here. A lot of salt. The salt will help get some of the water out as well. So if you can see in there, the water's now come out and the meat's actually boiling. And this is what I was talking about. If you added the tomatoes in here right now, you would not get proper flavor. There's something unpleasant going on in this pot right at the moment. And we want to get past that. And how I usually do that is by working the old potato masher.
But Craig, that's a potato masher. What are you doing?
No, but it works really well. And it gets it really, really fine. And that fine meat sauce is really what we're looking for. So
that's a pro tip, everybody. I've never seen that before, but that makes perfect sense because you want all these little meat pieces just to be itty bitty bite size, and then you get more surface area to fry up.
That's right. So I should probably finish the rest with a wooden spoon. And while that's crumbling away there, I think at this point we can add the onions.
All right. Well, there we go.
So we can catch this up. We're going to keep that on a high heat until that fat starts to render out of that meat even better.
And I'll take this carrot to town here.
I'm going to add the garlic in there as well. I do like a fair amount of garlic in my sauce.
Garlic's so good, and especially if you got, if you have a chance to buy local garlic, it's 3 times more potent and a factor of 10 more delicious than the stuff you buy in the grocery store.
Well,
one clove goes so much further.
It's oily. When you mash it on you put some salt and you mash it on the cutting board, it's literally wet and soft looking. It's just so much more flavor, and it smells up the whole room, but in a good way.
It doesn't have that shipping container taste that you sometimes get.
That's true. Yeah. So, again, I'm going to try to get this hotter.
We may have to use some magic of television here to accelerate the pot because we're having knob control issues, but that's part of the fun.
So I know there's no comments that I can read right now, but for someone that's made like a meat sauce myself before, it said something like, I made it before, it's like, I must have done it too early because it doesn't have that thick consistency. Is that what I did? I did.
Yes. It really is. Like I had a chef, Michael Smith, and the way he spoke to me about cooking in the early days, back in 95, 96. And he always says, if you take every element of a dish and you maximize the flavor of every ingredient that goes into a dish, the end result will be a lot more flavorful. And if you miss that, it's what he used to call a missed opportunity. So when you miss an opportunity to caramelize or sear or properly season or add an ingredient at the right stage, it takes away from the end. So that's not to say that if we put tomatoes in there right now and let that simmer for half an hour, it would be absolutely fine. It would taste fine. It would be perfectly nutritious. It's all high-end stuff going in there. But to make the best, really deep, flavorful sauce, the one that's very memorable, you got to kind of pay attention to each step along the way. Yeah. A little bit of dried oregano goes a long way in a classic bolognese. I'm going to put some of that in there. And I'm definitely going to add some chili. I love chilies.
Ay, ay, ay.
Ay, ay, ay. It's a nice chili. You can also skip this step and add it with some hot sauce or something like that along the way.
I had a little jar in my. You know how you get the condiments on your fridge door that you haven't used for months.
Yeah.
I've got this little jar of calabrese peppers. I think they're.
Oh yeah.
They're fiery hot. They are hateful hot, but they are so good in a sauce like this because they have that pepper flavor and they have that heat.
And it does mellow when it cooks.
Yeah.
It mellows exactly it. All right, so we're starting to get more heat in there, which is a good thing. We need to see that. The water, even though I've added those vegetables, the water is almost all gone out of that meat.
Right.
And that's key. So and the flavor, the smell right now, I'm starting to smell that barbecue cheeseburger. And that's kind of what I'm looking for.
Yep.
Actually, you know what I'm smelling? I'm smelling the burgers from 2 doors down. That's what I'm smelling. That's coming out of that pot, and that's what it is.
That's what we want.
It's really good meat, caramelized on a pan with salt and pepper, and that's kind of what we're.
I'm gonna have to come back and do a burger episode sometimes because something that Craig and I worked on very hard with 2 Doors Down coming along was coming up with the philosophy behind the burger, not just the ingredients, but the process, the meat grind, the cuts of beef used in it, and just like everybody has a burger, what distills a burger, what makes a really good burger. So it was the texture, it was not manipulating the meat too much, it was having a really flavorful seasoning on top, and then having condiments and things that don't compete but complement everything going on. You come up with different flavor profiles within that burger sphere, but having that patty perfectly seared and getting that crust on it was at the forefront.
Do you remember what visually we said we wanted the burger to look like? The Jughead Jones burger.
The Jughead Jones burger,
the Archie comics. Like every time I saw that burger in a comic, I was like, God, that looks so good. Yeah. When I was a kid. Yeah. And it was all about the burger to bun ratio and that little piece of cheese and a couple of drops of ketchup and mustard that you can see on the outside. It's that visual that we were sort of going for, and I think we did pretty good.
We did pretty good. Yeah. And I think what was key is we were always open to tweaking it. Like, when we started off, the patty was a little bit big. It was just, so we just shaved an ounce off, and then the ratio came into form. So like all these recipes and all these things, all the things I talked about in kitchen door classes, is how important appreciating the ratio of ingredients are and how they interact in the pan and what the science behind some of it is too. So
absolutely,
that all comes into play, and it's that's what I really like about this profession. Having worked here and everything, you've got to dive deep into the recipes to what makes it the best. How can you use the product to its maximum, coax the most flavor out of it, all that.
I literally had a conversation yesterday with someone about burgers in Halifax.
Oh yeah.
No joke, they were talking, so there isn't any place in Halifax that does a good one, except for 2 Doors Down. And no joke, that's not me. Seriously, yesterday.
Nice.
That's great. That's awesome.
I like to tell people that I helped set up a burger program because it sounds good. It does.
I'm going to add some tomato paste to this.
Yes.
A little trick to tomato paste. You ever read a recipe for tomato paste and it says 1 tablespoon or 2 tablespoons of tomato paste? So unless you have it in a tube, most people
Yeah.
are going to have that small amount. So there's two tricks to that. Trick number one is you can freeze it, which a lot of people, I mean, they say freeze
like
the
ice cube
leftover.
trays and
Ice
stuff.
cube trays.
Yeah,
I don't think a lot of people go through that trouble.
Yep.
So if you don't have or don't want to open a tin, I use ketchup. There's that, like everyone has ketchup in it, you know, and it's just a couple of tablespoons of ketchup in a tomato sauce. People say, "Oh my God, that's blasphemous!" But really, all ketchup is a slightly seasoned, slightly vinegar, slightly sweet,
Yeah.
and in an amount of meat and sauce that much, that's actually going to meld flavors.
And you'd
really
often
well.
add a little bit of red wine or red wine vinegar or
Yeah.
sugar, so it can actually take
So
the place of those
what I've
things.
done here, Andrew, just is I've made a well in the middle.
Well.
And I'm trying to saute that tomato paste a little bit to really make it rich.
This comes back to the caramelization lesson we were having
Yeah.
earlier, because you want to fry out that tomato paste, get some of the water there, and
That's right.
activate some of those sugar compounds that you fry out.
That's right. So you think I can get to 100? I'm at 95.
I got faith.
96.
We've been turning this dial
7.
up from 60, 98 for the past 5 minutes. Okay, we're at 99.
100.
100.
Okay, so we should
We're
be good.
100% cooking now.
And already it's hot. So what I'm looking for here, we're working all of that grated carrot, those finely chopped onions, that will melt down. And if we were going to do the braise here, you would not see any of that vegetable in the finished sauce because it would literally melt as a part of the tomato base. But this is again a pan sauce. It's a bit quicker. This is a good like sort of fast supper. So now we're going to put some red wine. I'm actually using good Italian Nebbiolo here. And I'm going to put about a cup. Now this is very important. You have to cook this. You have to let this boil off and go what we would call au sec,
Right.
dry pan. And the reason for that is, you know, you get the sweetness, you get the flavor, the richness, the depth of flavor with the tomato and red wine.
Yeah.
But you don't get the wininess, the alcohol, and some of the acidity stays, but the right amount, the good acidity.
There's some things you want, some things you don't want from that
That's
bottle.
right.
Yeah.
Does the type of wine matter?
No, what you have. In fact, many recipes are white wine for a bolognese sauce. I like red, just meat. I always seem to have open red while I have open white. So a little bit of that, but you can skip it too. The other thing that I always put in, and I am going to put that in here today, is a little bit of beef broth.
Oh, nice.
Now, a classic bolognese sauce will actually have a lot less tomato than we typically use in North America.
Right.
I go a little bit heavier on the tomato to stretch it.
Yep.
It also, for me, I really love San Marzano tomato sauce.
Yeah.
So it's just a flavor that I like. So while that is boiling off, what do you say we crack on the gnocchi?
Let's make some gnocchi.
Okay. Gnocchi. So first thing, that's going to be your job.
So take out your trusty potato ricer at home, or your food mill. So this is a food mill, and if you have one of those little, I'm doing the motion, but I can't. Yeah, if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. But potato ricer, where the potato goes through and forms all these even-sized particles. So this is going to do a similar thing on a restaurant scale. But also, if you have your potatoes, you can take a box grater and sort of work them with that, or some old mashed potatoes. As long as you haven't worked them too much, they should totally work.
And what I'm using for potatoes here are russets. You know, a dry mealy potato is traditional for a gnocchi. It is a little easier to work with. However, I have done just as many recipes with a Yukon Gold or something along those lines.
Yeah.
So
Starchier the potato, the better. Don't go all the way to a red potato. You're going to be using a lot more flour, probably.
Yeah,
But
that's
Yukon Golds, any of these are great.
this potato is just this is our French fry russet that we use at Two Doors Down. Is what I had available.
Nice.
Now when you cook these, you can bake them, but if you're going to boil them with the skins on, and then peel the skins off. Now these are still warm; they're not piping hot, so I can hold them. But you want to get as much of the ice, make it clean looking, but you can see that it still has a very dry appearance, even though it was boiled, and that's because the skin has protected it.
These are perfect for those potatoes that have been under your cupboard for the past 2 months. You're like, what am I going to do with these potatoes?
Yeah.
Yes, that's what you're going to do with these potatoes.
Yeah, and this is definitely a dish that, you know, gnocchi is something that people probably are a little intimidated to make. They would probably boil pasta, and honestly, boiled pasta with this sauce is amazing. But if you want to try something new, you know, for a dinner party or something, a little goes a long way. Like 4 to 6 pieces as a little appetizer of gnocchi. You know, so 2 potatoes worth is just a nice little amount, and it's only 3 elements to this. It's just potato, egg, and flour, and you don't need the ricer. You can fork mash it or grate it like you just said, and that's fine. And this recipe is again based on about 2 pounds of potato. I don't think I'm going to need all of this last one here.
And it's like making pasta too. There's almost a feel to it that you need to have. And we'll show you that as we go along. But you've got to judge the amount of flour because the amount of moisture in the potato varies wildly by how long it was under your cupboard or if it was in the field like 2 weeks ago. All that changes your end product.
And the time of year, as you know, this time of year everything's drier. So flour is very, very dry. Your brown sugar, that was brown sugar in this one.
Yeah. And other than visually, what's the importance of getting rid of the eyes? Because I know some people try to save every,
they jam up the food mill.
It's just, honestly, it's visual. It's just one of those things when you want a nice, snow white, beautiful, soft, milky pillow, really is what we're looking at here.
Pillow's a good word, because that's what these things are. They're like little potato pillows.
Did you say sorry to the microphone? You're like,
sorry, microphone.
I'll put some subtitles on while you're doing that.
Hey, check out the riced potato. Why do we say it's riced or milled? Look at that. It's just like little grains of potato rice. So
that's right.
I'm just going to go around with my finger here, take off all the little bits, and then we got it.
So I wanted to show the inside of that. We put a lot of wine. We have fat. We had all those vegetables in there. And what we have now is an almost dry pan. And what's happening is that's mostly just extra virgin olive oil and the fat from the beef that's come off there. It's the sound, it's the high-pitched sizzle and the crackle that I'm looking for. At that point, I can tell that most of the
Andrew is moving the microphone over to the sizzle and crackle.
Oh, good. You can hear that. Excellent. So now, San Marzano's, we're going to dump those in. Again, I'm going to reach for my handy-dandy potato masher. And it just helps me break those up.
Give them a smush.
Give them a smush. And you don't have to use the whole tomatoes. Like any type of crushed or diced tomato is absolutely fine. Again, it's often a question of what you have. I mean, there isn't a recipe really. If you have nothing but a single jar of Prego spaghetti sauce.
Well, yeah, one of my favorite things is sort of food hacking. You know, you've got 15 minutes to make dinner. Like, boil up a pot of ramen, put some spinach in there, and poach 2 eggs in it. That's right. Or you got a little bottle. I like to. You ever try the vodka sauce from Superstore? No, this is a free plug. Superstore, you're welcome. But it's good. Yeah, it's really good. Fry up some meat.
I'm gonna put that on done. A little beef broth in here.
Nice.
Probably about 3/4 of a cup to a cup. And then some passata. Now, I would typically put this whole thing in here. I'm going to put 2/3 of it in.
So what exactly is passata, Craig?
Passata is the Italian version of what we would call tomato sauce.
Right.
So a canned tomato sauce, Hunt's regular tomato sauce, finely crushed tomatoes with the addition of salt. And usually, if you read the label, it'll usually have addition of tomato paste as well, which we put in the beginning.
Right.
It's just a mildly seasoned. Now, sometimes the Italian ones will come with some basil in it, fresh basil leaves. But any type of pureed tomato, in Italy, would be a tomato puree that we call it.
Tomato puree, gotcha. Yep. I love buying the tomato paste in the tube too. That you can get at the Italian market. It has a little bit of onion and celery and garlic in it already.
And it also keeps.
And it keeps very well.
Yeah.
Just don't mix it up with your toothpaste.
That's right. Now I'm going to tell you my 2 secret ingredients, and then we can let this simmer away.
All right, 2 secret
my
ingredients.
My 2 secret ingredients. My bill will be in the mail. All right.
Oh, I love this. I did not know this was coming.
2 things. Worcester sauce.
Yep.
A couple of tablespoons of that. Shaky, shaky, wakey, wakey.
Nice.
Does anybody have any idea of the reference to that I just made? Shaky, shaky, wakey, wakey.
Not shaky, wakey, wakey.
Craig's Gen X. I'm a millennial, born in 1981. Thank you very much.
It's the Lee and Perrins ad from like 1970 something. Shaky, shaky. Nothing wakes up.
See, I'm a hardly like give any Grey Poupon kind of guy.
Yeah, well, that's also it. Now the fish sauce.
This is awesome, and I love that because it plays off the Worcester sauce because that's also got some nice salty fish in there.
This is no different than putting a couple of fillet of anchovy in your Caesar salad. This is about umami and seasoning. It's not about the flavor of fish. You'll never know that. I'm putting about 3 or 4 shakes in there, equivalent to maybe a teaspoon in the whole pot.
Fish sauce is such an amazing condiment, and I think people get pigeonholed with its usage, but like this is the perfect way to illustrate how you can use it to add like that deep richness to a dish, where it's like this. I remember one time we did a braised lamb dish here, Craig. It was like lamb shanks and we put anchovies and lemon zest in it. And the two of those with lamb, and then like served with some fresh oregano and mint on top. Holy smokes!
It wakes it up.
That combo.
It wakes it up for sure.
So we got a potato ready to go.
That's right. Now, you were asking me earlier, like, what's the secret to gnocchi? And you know, we do have a recipe here that I worked very, very hard at for like a decade to try to get.
It's a process to arrive at your recipe for something.
That's right. But you know what? This is not that recipe, because that recipe, I use hot potatoes, I add the eggs to the potato, and it's this whole process. And I've realized now that we just talked about, with the different water, if you're going to lock yourself into one potato at one particular time of the year, and you know exactly the water content, you can use a recipe like that. At the end of the day, a gnocchi does really require you to look at the consistency and make some adjustments.
This is an episode of Gnocchi Nuance with Craig and Andrew.
Gnocchi Nuance. So, we have in there our potatoes. It's a very weak show. That kind of fell apart on me. Most recipes are one large egg. I do that, but I also like to add one more egg yolk.
Oh, the richness of an extra yolk. Awesome.
So, one whole egg and one egg yolk.
Yep.
A good healthy pinch of black pepper. Black pepper works really well here. Salt. Good pinch of salt. We are going to season the water, and then you'll season the gnocchi when you fry them up.
Right.
Nutmeg, also crucial. So probably for this amount, a third of a nut of nutmeg. And it's always nice to have a nutmeg grater and some whole nutmeg if you can get them. They'll last.
This is what that weird side on your box grater is used for that you never use.
Yeah, that's true.
That's it right there.
That's true. And then flour. So really, we can mix all this. We could mix that in, or you can just knock it all in. A cup to a cup and a half is probably the right amount. Because the flour is very, very dry this time of year, I'm going to start with a little less than a cup.
Right.
Because it will absorb a lot more. And then we're just going to knead that together. Now,
it smells great. You can smell that fresh nutmeg really perfuming. Yeah.
One of the things that people will often worry about when they're making gnocchi is they'll say, it has to be, don't overwork it because it needs to be tender. And that's absolutely true. You can absolutely overwork the gnocchi. And you want to work it enough, though, that there's a little bit of structure. Because if it's too tender, it will not hold up in the water. It will absorb too much water and they'll break up. So there's a little bit of a fine line here. Now, this is coming together enough that I can take it out of the bowl, and we're going to knead it.
This looks like a classic Chives biscuit batter right here.
It does. It has that kind of look, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I can tell it needs it does require a little bit more here. So I'm going to start this, rub that off my fingers. Unfortunately, this is a fairly messy job. And we're going to just work in enough flour to make the dough smooth and not sticky. And I can feel that I'm almost there. So as soon as I get to that point, I'm gonna try not to work too much of the flour in.
Right, and you can see the outside's not absorbing any more flour.
That's right.
Yeah.
So now this is kind of like, do I stop kneading here because I want the gnocchi to be tender, or do I work it a little bit more? Now, to me, you have to work it just a little bit more.
Right.
You need it to come together into a smooth ball on the outside. I'm going to work a little bit more flour into there just because it's starting to stick to my hands. And we're almost there. We're almost there. And we're almost there.
And again, this is all by feel, but you can sort of see these steps, and the key is it's not sticking to his hands anymore.
Yeah.
That's how you can feel it.
Now we have a rollable log. I've worked it. It's smooth on the outside. There's a small amount of gluten building up from that flour,
right,
but not enough to turn this into bread.
Right.
So that's what we're going to work with.
Cool.
I'm going to very quickly get rid of this and rinse my hands.
No problem. Do you want me to roll it out into like Sharpie size?
Absolutely.
Cool.
And what I would do, just because of the length, maybe cut in half. Feel free to use my knife there.
All right. So he's got a little dough scraper here that works just fine. Cutting it in half, and correct me if Craig will correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm remembering from my time here we used to use a Sharpie, the width of a Sharpie. I don't have one on me, normally do, but the width of a Sharpie is the guide.
The Sharpie was the guide. Now for this one, Andrew, depending on what type of gnocchi, like when we did the Sharpie ones, we did that for gnocchi quattro formaggi, which is a very, very small, very rich sauce.
My favorite pizza.
It is. I love it. Now this one, we have this beautiful sauce, and we want the sauce to really hold on to that gnocchi.
Right.
So I tend to, when I'm making this one, to make them a little bit larger and do the old thumbprint pattern,
Cool.
and to give it a bit of an indentation to hold some of that sauce.
Gotcha. How's my rolling technique here?
Rolling technique is great.
The key is, see, I'm spreading my fingers out, so I'm like not putting pressure on any one spot too much. So as long as you thread it along like that, you can really coax it into a nice long falling off the table style log.
My calves are kind of tight, Andrew. Like softer this, you okay?
Yeah, I'm gonna. Adam, there was no need of that.
That was outside. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Craig.
There was no K-N-E-A-D of that.
Exactly. Hey, you know why my friend became a baker?
Why is that?
Because he needed the dough.
Oh my gosh.
Welcome to Chit Chat Shop.
Welcome to Andrew Farrell. I had 9 years of that.
9 years of this.
9 years.
You ever see that show, The Good Place?
I haven't. I know it though.
Well, I'll tell you. Oh yeah, it's. But you've been in hell all along. There's anyway, spoiler alert. Everyone's season 1. It's fine.
All right. So what I'm going to do here is sort of line these up. These slightly irregular shapes, that's great for gnocchi. We want people to know that this was made by hand.
Exactly. You didn't buy these off the shelf.
That's right. Yeah. So about a 3/4 inch pillow in width. We just sort of run that knife down. Don't fuss too much about them. You can put some flour on your knife if it starts to stick. That's it. Now each one, do a little bit of a tap right in the middle. Squash them out. Now you've seen the other way you can take that and you roll it on the gnocchi board with your thumb. So the thumb makes the indentation and then you get the ridges on the outside. And
there's also the fork method. Have you ever tried that one where you just do it on the back of the fork? Yep, that works too.
But you don't really need to do that.
No.
Because a lot of people don't have that instrument. They have forks. But
well, the thing is that all the sauce is going to cling into these little divots, and that's basically the idea of having those marks in it too, so the sauce is somewhere to cling to it. And it also evens out the cooking time, because if you have one that's a little bit bigger than the smaller one, if you make them all generally the same size, they're going to cook in the same amount of time.
That's right. So that is a gnocchi. So there's 2 steps to frying that. You do not have to fry gnocchi.
But when you do, you are going to be very happy you did.
There's a decided difference in the texture and the depth of flavor when you do fry them.
Yeah. Adam, I think you should get a shot of this sauce. Look at this sauce.
So let's have a little bit of a stir of that. So you can see now that it's very, very rich in color. It's got a nice fine meat grind to it. The carrots, because it hasn't done the 2-hour braise, they're still going to be visible, and I'm okay with that. It's not a big deal.
Absolutely.
But typically from this point, instead of boiling on the stove, I would have taken that off by now, and I would have put it in a 300-degree oven for about an hour and a half to 2 hours, and that would completely melt that down.
Gotcha.
But this is absolutely fine the way you have it. So why don't I've got the water boiling in the back. I'm going to turn the pan on for the gnocchi.
Perfect.
How are we doing for time?
We're great. We can do 3 or 4 hours as long as Adam can hold the camera steady. We're good to go.
Okay. So one thing that we have to sort of worry about here is the transfer of the gnocchi over to the pot, which I apparently missed that.
Let me get a little sheet pan. I think I know where a few things are around here.
Yes, you do. You know it well.
Do you have any funny Andrew Farrell stories from here? You can share that
I'm allowed to share. I think the funniest one, and it's kind of appropriate that it be right by the iPickle sticker, which he stuck on my wall, and I can't get the darn thing off because it's glued there forever. But he went on Global in a pickle outfit for Halloween.
Yeah, we made Halloween cookies. Jill Chappell, if you're watching, that was a great time. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that was a good Andrew Farrell story. Yeah, for sure.
I also ran through all 3 restaurants in the pickle costume at the end of I think our 2nd burger week. Yeah.
I guess we have a lot of burger week stories. That's for sure.
Yeah.
A lot of many hours standing over there and forming burgers.
Oh, pretty crazy. A lot of beef. Anyway, check out our little gnocchi pillows ready to go in our pot of water.
Right. So, I'm very quickly putting a few things. Oh, you know what we need you to do?
Yes.
I need a little bit of parsley for the finished
I will
gnocchi.
chop some parsley. The setup back there.
That was pretty cleanly done. So I've got my pan heating up for the gnocchi. I'm going to drop, we probably do, depends on the portion. So this is exactly the size that I was hoping that we would get.
Nice.
And I typically do 10 to 12 for an entree portion. So in this case, we're not going to, I have 2 plates we're going to fill up. So we'll just do like a half a dozen just to give a little sampling.
Now that other half, we only rolled out half the good log of gnocchi dough, tongue-tied. Can you freeze that as is, or would you form that into gnocchi to freeze it?
So you form it just like this, spread it on a sheet pan with some parchment paper, and throw it into the freezer. Now that is called IQF. You ever seen a bag of scallops or anything frozen in the grocery store and it says IQF? And what that means is individually quick frozen. And the nice part about items that are IQF like that is they are separate, and then once they're frozen, you take them off the sheet pan and bung them in a freezer bag.
Scallops in the
and they don't stick together. So then you can go in. This is exactly what we do at the restaurant.
Yeah.
So we do a batch. Like somebody will stay here for 4 hours and do 600 pieces of gnocchi like this. Freeze them all, put them in containers, and then when you order them in the restaurant, they take a handful frozen, drop them into the water. And that works just as well as.
That's a great way to meal prep at home. If you want to, get a whole bunch of stuff prep done for a month to ahead of time. You've got that deep freeze space, which I'm currently not allowed to have at home because I would just fill it. But it is a perfect way to sort of get ahead and just have a meal ready in the freezer. You just boil some water, ready to go.
So, our sauce is doing very well here. I'm actually going to let that settle. You know what I have forgotten? A ladle.
Ah, ladle.
You know what the ladles are?
Yep.
Chef?
Me too.
We'll get that in a second.
I'll be right back. Gotta get a ladle.
Alright. So there is the finished sauce. I'm going to taste that for seasoning. Now there are elements to the sauce that are still yet to go in the pan. I think we're onto something there. I don't think it needs any more seasoning for salt and pepper, but it will benefit from cream, Parmesan, and parsley.
Perfect. So let's go through it actually. So parsley is going to bring a bit of freshness, going to brighten it up a little bit. We already have our oregano in there, but if you use fresh oregano, it would cook so quickly. Parsley is a little more robust, will hold up. The cream is kind of perfect for this because it sort of owns the richness that's going on in the sauce already. You've got the tart tomato. That cream's going to mellow it out just a little bit, and especially if it's like we put it in the oven, that cream is just going to make everything so silky smooth. And Parmesan is just an umami bomb, so beautiful, beautiful cheese. Grana Padano would also work.
Really well with that.
Yeah, that would go really well.
So when I cook the gnocchi, I've got it in the poaching liquid here. A couple of tricks.
Yeah.
Make sure the water's at a full boil. Poaching, typically the water's not at a full boil.
Right.
But with those very, very soft, tender gnocchi, it's important to have it boiling because it keeps them separate. They don't cling. They don't
that agitation from the bubbles is actually a good thing.
Yeah.
And then, you're at the point now. What you want to look for is they'll sink to the bottom at first, but then when they're pretty much done, they float up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So right now, these are done. So what I do is, as soon as they float, I'll let them poach for 60 seconds once they hit the surface of the water.
Okay, good.
I don't really know why I do that, but I just sort of feel that I just want to make sure that it's not doughy on the inside.
Yeah.
The other visual indicator is those are now twice the size as they were before. So I've got a hot pan of extra virgin olive oil here. This is going to be noisy and crackle quite a bit, so don't be shocked. You definitely need a non-stick pan for this operation for the most part.
Got to get that audio sizzle.
You got to get the sizzle.
All right. This is a perfect way to get that chewy outside on the gnocchi, and then you get that super tender inside with that little crust on the outside. It's so good, and it helps it stand up a little bit to the sauce too.
I always take a moment to really kind of make sure I get the flat surface caramelized for each one of these.
I'm flashing back to standing with you on the line, searing off 20 scallops at a time for a Christmas function years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got to juggle them.
It is definitely an important part of cooking, especially in the restaurant, but using your ears, because when you've got the stove behind you and you're talking or you're plating a dish or you're listening to somebody calling it a dish or an issue that's coming in, if you're not using your ears, and like right now I know that is starting to caramelize. Totally. Not because I'm watching it, but because it sounds different than it did even 30 seconds ago. Yeah. The water's evaporated off, same with the beef, and now it's got this high pitched crackle.
Yeah. It's about engaging all of your senses.
Now see how many of these I can flip in one go.
Oh.
Apparently very few.
Oh, we're going for in the pan.
In the pan. No, it's not on the floor. That is a very nice caramelized gnocchi.
Woo! Beautiful. And remember, guys, you're watching at home. We are doing this on Tuesday afternoon, but we are live on the comments right below here. So check us out. We're going to be answering all your questions. We'll give you this little, we'll run through the gnocchi recipe again. So Make sure you're checking out the comments down below. Thank you. Back to Craig.
Back to gnocchi. Now, woo, we now have a nice fry, crisp on the outside, tender on the inside. Why don't we take one of those out now and try it just on its own? Perfect. Cut that.
Gotta test. Oh, look at that. Pillowy, but nice and crusty on the outside. Cheers.
Cheers. They really get crisp, eh?
Oh, and the potato just melts.
So, at this point, sauce.
All right.
Several healthy, good labels of it. I like a good amount of sauce. And now this is cream. So we have to put some cream in there. I would say for the probably about a tablespoon and a half per portion.
You don't need a crazy amount. That's the thing. It has an effect at that kind of concentration.
A lot of gnocchi, the base recipe for a lot of gnocchi sauces will actually put milk in the sauce, like during this part, and that's great. You can do that too. Again, restaurant mentality is you don't add cream until the end because you get a lot of lactose people. So you want to keep a dish like that versatile as much as possible.
Exactly.
So now that I'm starting to get that at a full boil, it's getting thicker. The bubbles are getting smaller. I now want to add lots of cheese.
Ooh.
Good amount of Parmesan.
Parmesan.
So this is Parmigiano Reggiano. Pecorino is very, very classic as well. Grab this extra thing here.
Yeah.
And parsley. Nice amount of parsley.
Pop with the parsley.
Et voila. Woohoo! That is finished. So now we plate.
You've done this a few times before, huh?
I have done this recipe a few times before. I enjoy Italian cooking. There's just something about, I don't know, I guess a lot of people say they love Italian food. I truly love Italian food. I love this sauce. Lasagna Bolognese is, I think, my favorite food in the world.
Everybody's got a favorite Italian dish, and gnocchi is, it's so good.
Yeah.
Bolognese.
And this is, there's a lot of sauce. Now, the meat in that sauce, and I will say that all that meat was local, grass-fed, organic meat. The 2 tins of tomatoes, that whole sauce cost less than $15 to make.
So really, we just made Italian meat and potatoes.
You made Italian meat and potatoes. Now, at this point, it's a question of, do you want to garnish it a little bit more? So chili oil.
That's not a question, is it?
No, not really a question.
Let's cheese that.
Cheese it up a little bit more on the top.
Or a little more
A
parsley?
little bit more parsley for color.
All right, I'm going to go from up high.
Go up high.
I preach going up high.
Did you notice that I cracked the doilies out for this very special occasion?
Nice.
Paper doilies. All right.
Someone to grab a pic of that before it goes into fact.
Yes. Let's do that.
Good idea.
Grab a photo.
So as two very successful, great chefs, other than education, is there something a great chef must have, other than education? A trait, maybe.
Tenacity. I think if you really want to get things right, you've got to be, you can't settle for something being, that's good.
Yeah.
It's got to be awesome. You've got to always be self-critical. You've got to look at what you're doing and sort of take everything in stride, because you're not going to nail every recipe the first time, but as long as you start to understand the core principles, and this is a great demonstration of that, browning your meat right, knowing what order to add ingredients and intuitively why that is, that comes with time. But if you can start down that path, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, but definitely don't think that you know everything, even if you know. Are you going in my face? Even if you have 30 years of experience, even if I knew something 25 years ago, I'm not on the line as much as I was back then. I'm a business person and a business owner now, so my hours are divided, and I forget things and I get rusty. And when I work on the line here at the kitchen, especially if I'm running cold side or pastry or doing aboyeur or something.
Right.
When I do that, if I'm not doing it all the time, as well, you get rusty at it.
Yeah.
And you have to think more, and it's not quite as intuitive. So I think having patience, but also just always trying to learn and not think that you're always at the peak of your game. Yeah. And you go cautiously, but put the effort in at all times. I think that's really important. And the last thing you need, in my opinion, is you need some stamina and an ability and a desire to work through the fatigue.
Yes.
Because you have to be able to push your body, because you're often on your feet, 12, 14, 16 hours a day, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 days in a row. Sometimes.
And it's unpredictable too, right? That's the thing. You just got to be ready to roll with the flow of it.
Yeah. So a comment that was made recently is I walked into the last week onto the line to do a shift here, and Francis, our pastry chef, said, "Do you realize how much your mood changes when you go into the kitchen to cook? You're Mr. Cranky Pants when you're at your office answering the call and trying to deal with the problems of the business. And the second I go into the kitchen and cook and do this, I'm like whistling and singing songs, and I'm joking.
Channeling grandmothers.
I truly still love the act of cooking, and just even making this for fun today. For me, it inspires me, and I realize that I haven't lost my love of good ingredients and good recipes and cooking with friends.
Yeah, man.
So are we going to taste this or what?
Oh, yeah, we are.
All right.
I don't know if Adam is, though. I don't know. I don't know.
Guys,
Listen,
you're a very good host.
we'll share with you.
We'll share. All right, so check that out. I'm going to do the Food Network face. Are you ready for this? It's actually partly because it's really hot, but it's also effing delicious.
That's Jamie Oliver does that face well. I'd say that turned out pretty good.
That is fantastic because you get, even though it was only bubbling for about 25 minutes over there, you get that meat flavor in the sauce. The carrots have started to break away, so they don't have like a texture that's unique. It's just all part of the sauce, and then that cheese on top, a little freshness of the parsley.
A little bit of heat from the chili.
Yep, and you can see like in this bite right here, I got the crispy top of the gnocchi, which is still crispy because it was just fried, but then covered in tomato sauce. So I apologize if you're watching this and you're drooling, and we already ate this the day before, but you can tell us all about it in the comments below.
It's also on the menu at Chives right now.
Exactly, so the winter Italian
So if you really
menu
like
at
the look of
Chives.
this, you can get it any time of day, 7 days a week.
Is there anything else going on, like speaking of that, at Chives in the next little while, or you want to talk about it?
We have a great Valentine's weekend. We're actually celebrating Valentine's Day for 4 days because Valentine's falls on a Thursday, which obviously we'll be busy.
Yep.
But a lot of people can't go out and work night, so we're doing Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We're doing a 4-day Valentine's weekend. We've got a special menu posted at Chives.ca for it, plus our Italian menu, plus it's dine around, plus we have pre-theater. So we actually have sort of 4 promotional menus and different packages that you can do. And there's no reservations. Walk in anytime, just for a good meal, whether it be date night for Valentine's Day or a quick single bowl of gnocchi before Neptune or the movie. It's encourage you to come. Perfect. Very excited about
You gotta try the gnocchi.
winter food. Yeah, it's good. Thanks very much for having me, buddy.
Thank you. Greg.
I thought when it was kind of a trip down memory lane seeing you walking through here today.
Oh man.
With your little man purse over your shoulder.
I got my man bag on. I've got
just like the old days.
just throwing my jacket at the wall.
And you know what else just like the old days? He was in here for 5 minutes and then said, I gotta go get a coffee, I'll see you. And then he was gone for 15.
This is a very chatty street. I see people everywhere. I know a lot of them. As a matter of fact, I'm glad you mentioned that. Next week, I'm going to be doing a little shot with Laura at the Old Apothecary. She's going to teach me how to make eclairs just in time for Valentine's Day. So if you're one of those people that maybe you didn't get a reservation on one of the 4 days, you can walk into Chives and have Valentine's dinner. Maybe make your loved ones some eclairs that we're going to show you next week from the Old Apothecary. So this is a little bit of my Barrington Street tour here on Chit Chat Shop to go. So we can't wait to share with you what else we got going on Kitchen Door. Our new space, we're looking at March. March is a very exciting month for us. It's going to be a very exciting month for you because you get to see what we've been up to in the past few months. It's just amazing to see the organization and the amount of stuff that's been going on behind the scenes. You're going to see Patty's face again, and she is going to be excited, very excited. So thanks again, Craig.
Hey,
thank you.
Good to see you, buddy.
And
thank you very much.
Join us in the comments. Chit Chat Shop. See you later.